Let's solve a problem where we want to find the first word which starts with A. And we have a list of words, and here is one solution. Let's try to write it from scratch. So we have a list of words, and we want to find the first word which starts with A. The first means that the leftmost. So we start from the left side, and the first one which comes from the left, reading from the left, this one is a solution. So how we would do it ourselves? So basically we have a list of elements. I will just write the first letters here. O, P, A, B and A. So we will probably start from the left because currently the problem is that we should start from the left. So if we start reading from the right side, we would get a different solution. So we go from here and we are checking whether this one starts with A, whether this one starts with A, and whether this one starts with A. If I find one, then I say out, yeah, I have found first word which starts with A. Let's try to tell the computer to do the same. So first, we want to have a for loop for word in words. So now what I get, because it's a list of words, I get every word into a variable word. And now I can see whether the first letter for this word is A, or it's more convenient to actually use to check whether the word starts with A. And in Python we have this method. If a word starts with A, you can actually have several letters here, maybe AP. So it checks whether the first two symbols of this word match with the ones we are writing here. But currently we are using only A. So if the word starts with A, then I can print out found. And let's print out also the word itself. And let's run this code. So what this code does is that it finds two elements. So basically I have a loop. I go into a loop, I take a word O, see whether it starts with A. Because it doesn't start with A, we just take the next element. We go here. The P also doesn't start with A, so we skip this if part and take the next element. Now the apple starts with A, and because our condition is true, we print out that we have found a word which starts with A. But now what we do, we go on. We take the banana here, and still this doesn't start with A. We go to avocado, and this starts with A, and we print it out. The problem here is that we actually only want or care about the first word. So if we have found the apple, we should actually stop here. And to do that, we can use break. So we write break here. So now what happens after we have found our first word which starts with A, we break the loop. What break does is it ends or it stops executing the loop right away. I mean, if there is even print here, this here is not printed. It actually even shows me that this code is not reached. So the breaks or stops the loop execution right away. I mean, there's no going to the end of this iteration. So basically, after this break sentence, we go somewhere here. Continue here. Now, if I, for example, want to find all the words which start with, let's say, T, then I don't find any. If I execute the code, there's nothing to be found, and it just prints out the continue, which is the sentence here after the loop. But I would actually like to inform the user that there are no words which start with certain letter, then I can use else part. So the else is written for this loop, and else part is executed when the break statement was not executed. So this means that we didn't find anything, so we didn't stop the loop. And now I can print out our no words starting with A. Now, in our example, it's actually T. So I might have T here. So if I execute the code, it tells me that there is no words starting with T. If I use A here and execute the code, then this line is not executed because we broke out, and the breaking works so that it doesn't execute the else part. So it right away goes here. So what we do, we take into a loop an element. So currently it's O. Inside the loop, we check whether it starts with A. Starts with A. And if it's true, then we execute break. So let's write it as a condition. So if it's true and if it's false. If it's false, then we can say that we continue with the body of this loop. There is actually nothing, it is like an empty statement, and we go again into this loop part. This is loop condition. And if it's false. If it's true, then we execute break. And what the break does, it goes out from the loop. The same would apply if we end the loop or there is no elements to take from the input anymore, or the list is done. I mean, you reach to the end of the list. So here's the condition. With O, we have an element, we get O, whether it starts with A, it doesn't start with A, it's false. We go to the loop again. We take P. P doesn't start with A. We again go here. There's nothing to be done. We go here. We take A. Now this one starts with A. It is true. And we get here. We break out. And now we have reached the end of the loop. And now there's this print continue. Continue. So this is like the drawing how the code is executed in this example. And if there would be no break, then before the break we actually print it out. Print word. So there are two steps here. So first we print out, then the break. I mean, in my code there is also print something here, but this is not reached because if I'm already here, it goes out. So there's basically no way to get here. And actually, PyCharm also knows that if I go here, it says that the code is unreachable. So, and if I see the first word starting with A is apple. Now let's modify the task so that we want to find the index of the first word which starts with A. So we want to find the position. So the positions or the indices are here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's not enough. This code is not enough because I can find out that this word starts with A, but I don't know the index. To have the index, I can, in addition to get the word itself, I can use enumerate here, enumerate. And what the enumerate does, it actually gives us, in addition to the element itself, it gives us the index or the position. So I can get I and word here. So for every element, I get both the index and the value of the element. Index and the value, index and the value. And now if I have found the word, I can also print out that position is, and I. So the I indicates the position or the index. Maybe index is better here. Index is I. But I don't have to change nothing more. I mean, only difference is that instead of, in addition to those words themselves, I get also the indices. And now, in addition to printing out the word, I print out the index also. So I get two values for every iteration. One is the index, the second one is the value itself. And if I run the code, now it says that the index is 2. The rest is basically the same. And this is also written here. Now, let's modify the task so that we have to find the last word which starts with A. The last word, I mean, in the beginning I had a code which didn't have this break. And what it did, it printed out all the words which started with A. So in the end I got 2 words starting with A. But now I only want to have the last one. There are actually quite many ways to solve this, which is good in programming, that for a task or a problem you can have different kinds of solutions. One way would be to actually start reading from right to left. But let's see how to modify the current code so that we can actually get the result for the last element which starts with A. And I will try to modify my code. So the problem currently is that I break out if I find a word which starts with A. Instead, this is something similar to, for example, finding the maximum value. Or again, if you have the same problem, you have a lot of words. You have maybe a book of words. Every page has one word, for example, and you are asked, give me the last word which starts with A. So of course you would probably start from backwards, but let's say you can only start from the beginning. So what you do, you turn the pages. If you find a word which starts with A, you memorize it. So for example, apple. Then you go on, you find another word which starts with A. Now you overwrite this. So instead of apple, you now have avocado to work with, and so on. So every time you find a new word which starts with A, you replace it. And if you have reached the end of the book, the one word which you memorized, this is the last one starting with A. Because if there are some other letters and so on, what happens is that you have memorized this one, and this is actually the last element which starts with A. So I will have the same loop. Maybe I also want to know the page where this element or this word was found. So maybe this I is useful here. So I have to check whether this starts with A. So now, instead of breaking out, I will memorize it. I will have a, let's say, solution. Solution currently is maybe empty string. And if I reach here, it starts with A, I will store it in the solution. So I will write here that solution is a word. And I do not break. This is one sentence here, and I will go back here, or maybe to here. It maybe makes sense. So let's write it here. Now I have to delete this break. Okay, I will do a separate loop, because then I can, first one finds the first one, and the second loop finds the last one. So I have this starts with A. Now I remove this break. Maybe I can still print out that I found the word, but I store it somewhere. Let's say solution is empty. And now I say that the solution is word. and I can still have this else part. But currently, because I don't have any breaks in my code, there is no point to have this else part. But I still would like to know whether there was at least one word which started with A. So here I can now check if the solution is empty. Then probably there was no solution. Of course, it can happen that the list of the elements also include empty element, and then the empty element can be actual solution, not this one here, but from here I got this empty solution. But in my case, because the word has to start with A, empty word cannot start with A, so I can be pretty sure that this solution here is not correct. If it's empty, I will print out no word with A. And else I print out solution is, and I print out the solution. Now if I run the code, then this is I will put something like this here, so I know that the first part of the code is over here. Now what it does, it finds the first word with A, it even prints out the index, then the second one with A prints out the index, and then it shows the solution, and it is the last one with the A. Of course, maybe a better solution would be to use something else as a result or solution. One way would be to use here, for example, none. None is a special value which basically indicates that there is no value. And now here I have to check whether solution is none. Then the solution then there is no solution or nothing was found inside this loop. And if it is not none, even if it's an empty string, it can be still solution. Of course, there still can be a problem that inside this list, instead of or in addition to words, there is one non-value, and then still we wouldn't be sure whether there was a solution or there was not a solution. To kind of solve this problem, we can do so that we find also the index, best index or solution index. And now I can have -1 here. Because indices start from 0, -1 cannot be a solution. And now I'm pretty sure if the solution index is stored here, if the solution index is -1, then there is no solution, because I cannot have actual solution with index -1. So this means that I haven't changed this original value, so therefore nothing was found here. And we can say that no word starts with A. And if the solution is something else, then there is a solution. I can also print out the solution index. So in addition to finding the last word with A, I also find the last position of, or the position of the last word starting with A. So this is the result for this code. So we saw different ways to operate with a list of words. We found the first and the last occurrence of certain string. In our case, we wanted to find the first or the last one which starts with A. And we were able to do that using break in certain cases, but in some cases you cannot use break. So you have to, first you have to understand how the problem is solved and how would you yourself solve the problem. And based on that, you can start building up the code. So you have to check whether if you have found something you can break or you cannot break, because you still have to look further, because I cannot break if I want to find the last word with A, because I'm not sure whether there comes something after this first word or not. So I still have to, just in case, look every element in a list.